Toki ang talagang tempo nila sinakin.
Okay, Pona Translation. Sorry to be late, everybody. Okay, so let's get straight into it. I'm going to share my screen. So what I want to do today is just do a little translation workshop, and again, like the other one, is just my ideas based partly on my training, partly on my experience. But I hope it'll be helpful. That's the main point. None of this is it's meant to be like a rule or anything, but it's a helpful way to approach translation. So, where are we? Okay, please let me know in tomo suno of your thoughts, and yeah, here we go. So, the sentence of the day is, what's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So, can I have a couple of suggestions for this line? What's in the name? That's hard, you're very right. Yes, that's why I picked it. Yes. But don't worry, we will get there. Do we have any... Okay, nimi li seme, nimi ante tawa kasi sui la, kasi li awen sui. Not bad. Yes, that's good. That's good. Yeah, so how to approach something like this, the way I would approach it. Let's start from, well, we'll take that as, and let me just nick that, and we can use that as a basis, and then we can come back to it later. All right, so what I would like to talk about is a concept called dynamic equivalence in translation, aka functional equivalence. So this is something that was proposed by a guy called Eugene Nida, who's a big name in the Bible translation world. So dynamic equivalence, or what he later called functional equivalence, the message of the original text has been so transported into the receptor language that the response of the receptor is essentially like that of the original receptors. So what does this mean, really? Well, imagine, okay, when you first think of translation, when people generally first think of translation, what do they think? Well, the other guy said something, or wrote something, and so I want to say or write the same thing, and so I look at the words in what the original person wrote, and then I transfer it into my language, and that's how it goes, right? No, this is not how you achieve dynamic equivalence. What you do is you think about the receptor, the person who read the original or heard the original. What was their emotional response, or what was the intended emotional response? What were they supposed to do with what they read? What was the intended result? And then what you do is you think about your own quote-unquote receptors, and you think about the people that you're writing for, and of course they're different to the receptors in the original language. They think differently, they have a different world, maybe. But you think about what would produce the same reaction in your receptors, and then that's what guides how you render your edition. So this is the concept of dynamic equivalence or functional equivalence, and it's really useful, especially for Toki Pona, in my view. So what we're going to do is look at an example from this, because the sentence I just showed you, where is that from? Who was the original receptor? Who is saying what to who and why? That's where we need to start. So of course it's from the play Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a rendition of a scene from earlier in the play, so you can get an idea of what's going on. So Romeo and Juliet, Romeo is from the house of Montague, Juliet is from the house of Capulet, and these two families they hate each other. So I'm going to show you a scene from the beginning of the play that shows you this enmity, but what I'm also going to do is I'm going to use that as a springboard into this whole idea of dynamic equivalence, because I'm going to show you two renditions of the same scene, and we're going to talk about which one is more faithful to the original. Okay, so the first one, let me show you this scene first. So, scene from earlier in the play, this is Act 1, Scene 1. And so Samson is a Montague, he's one of Romeo's guys. I will bite my thumb at them, which is a disgrace to them if they bear it. And then Abraham is from Capulet, he's from Juliet's side, and they get into this argument, and they start fighting. And then Benvolio comes along. Benvolio is also a Montague. He is one of Romeo's guys, but he's more a bit more sensible. And he comes along and says, "Part fools, put up your sword, you know not what you do." It's like, what are you playing at? Yes, our two families hate each other, but you know, there's no reason to get into a fight like this. And then Tybalt, who is from Juliet's side, says, "What? Drawn and talk of peace? I hate the word as I hate hell, all Montagues and thee." So then a fight actually happens. So I'm going to show you two renditions of this scene. The first one is from a state university, Fitchburg State University, and I apologize for the sound quality, but yeah, let's watch.
I'll bite my thumb at them.
Can you hear it okay? Let me know in the chat if you can hear it.
Do you bite your thumb at us, sir?
Sir, I do bite my thumb, sir.
But do you bite your thumb at us, sir?
Is it the law of our side if I say I?
No.
I do not bite my thumb at you, sir. I do bite my thumb, sir.
Do you quarrel, sir?
Quarrel, sir! No, sir.
If you do, I am for you. We serve as good a master as you do.
No better?
Well, sir?
Say better.
Better, sir.
You lie.
Draw, you men! Gregory, remember that I told you blow. Sir!
All right, so they're fighting now, and here comes Benvolio, and this is Tybalt.
I do but keep the peace. Drop thy sword, vengeance part is men with me. But draw and talk of peace.
I hate the word!
I hate the word.
All Montagues and thieves.
I'm not the coward!
All right, good. So,
I'll bite my thumb.
okay, so what do you say? Was that a faithful rendition, would you say? Well, it was in a way, but now we're going to compare it with another rendition, which I think is even better,
I'll bite my thumb at
which is this one. 1996 Romeo and Juliet, starring a very young Leonardo DiCaprio. Now watch this version and tell me what you think.
I will bite my thumb at them, which is a disgrace to them if they bear it. Huh?
Go forth, I will back thee!
Do you bite your thumb at us, sir?
I do bite my thumb, sir! Do you bite your thumb at us?
Sir.
Is the law of our side if I say I? No! No, sir, I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I bite my thumb, sir! Do you quarrel, sir? Quarrel, son? No, son! But if you do, sir, and for you I serve as good a man as you! No better? Here comes our kinsman, say better! Yes, sir, better! You lie! Draw if you be mine! Poor fools, you know not what you do! Put up your swords!
What about drawn among these heartless hinds? Turn thee Benvolio, and look upon thy death.
I do but keep the peace. Put up thy sword, or manage to depart these men with me.
Peace? Peace? I hate the word, as I hate hell, all Montagues, and thee.
Okay, what do you think of that? I think this is wonderful. Okay, now, which one was more faithful? Now, what you could say is, well, as Jan Satter says, they've got guns. It's completely different. But it is an adaptation which creates a similar response in the receptors to what Shakespeare originally intended. And in fact, if you look underneath this video,
I will bite my thumb at
one of
them,
the,
which is a
sorry,
disgrace to
one of the top comments is this is what Shakespeare envisioned. Because Shakespeare was not a classical writer in his own time. He was like, I don't know, James Cameron or, Christopher Nolan of his time. So if Shakespeare was alive today, he might want to come up with something like this. But of course, without the old-timey English, because that's just a that's almost like a joke today. But what I would also like to point out is that the rendition of the scene, let me just go to this point. Where are we? No. Go back a bit. Right. So you see this, do you bite your thumb at us? Is the law of our side if I say I know? In the university performance, yes, it was more kind of quote-unquote authentic, but the Montague boys were a little bit too cocky, right? So it's like, no, sir, I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I bite my thumb, sir. It's like, why are you then asking your friend if the law is on your side if you say yes? Doesn't make sense. But in the 1996 version, yeah, they're using guns, but the scene works. It makes sense because they're trying to be the cool guys. They're trying to show themselves off, but at the same time, they're afraid of putting a foot wrong. And you feel that in the way that the lines are delivered. So in my opinion, on a certain level, the 1996 version is actually a better rendition objectively than the one we just watched. Okay, State University, I mean, I'm not trying to knock them, but I'm trying to make the point that something that on the surface looks like it's being unfaithful can actually be more faithful in a different way. So let's come to our scene. Where are we? Sorry. I need to skip through this a bit. Here we go. Right, yeah, all right. So functional equivalence. Think of the result when the reader or the listener or whatever. So now we come to the scene with the what's in a name bit. This is also great fun.
It is my lady. It is my love. Let you make it work.
Jaime speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel. Romeo. Oh, Romeo. Wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Or, if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet.
because I muted myself, sorry. So what I was saying was I should have set the scene here. Sorry about that. So here, Romeo and Juliet, they've encountered each other, they've fallen in love, but only after that have they realized that they're from these two families that hate each other. And here Juliet's talking to herself, saying that, oh, well, you know, I love this guy, I don't care what family he's from, basically. So let's keep watching.
'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague. What's Montague? It is not hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Romeo, doff thy name, and for thy name, which is no part of thee, take all myself.
I take thee at thy word.
And then they fall in the pool. It's just so reverent because she's supposed to be on the balcony, and so he's trying to climb up to the balcony. And then what happens is she's not at the balcony. Ding! She comes out the lift. It's just so deliciously reverent. But again, it's a faithful rendition of the scene in a way. So, what is Juliet saying here? What's Montague? Montague doesn't mean anything. You know, it's just your name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And Romeo would be just as sweet, no matter what his names were. Without that, Romeo, doff thy name. So to doff is an old word for taking off a hat or something. So doff thy name, take away, get rid of your name. And for that name, in return for that name, which is no part of thee, which doesn't mean anything about you, take all myself. So it's like if either you or I could just abandon our family names, we could be together. That's what she's saying. So now that we've done our dynamic equivalence, whatever, let's cut to the 2-minute workshop, which because I overslept is unfortunately going to be very short. But what we're starting with is nimi li seme, nimi ante tawa kasi sui la, kasi li awen sui. Not bad, in fact. That could work inside this scene. What I would like to just suggest, here's something I came up with earlier. Where are we? Okay. Nimi li suli tan seme. Kasi pi lawa loye li pana ekon sui, nimi ona li ante ala eni. So, of course, it would be better if we could actually go through the whole scene and talk about how we would render the whole scene. But what's in a name, you could get sidetracked by this in and put seme li lon nimi, for example. What's in a name? But we just looked at the scene. What is Juliet saying here? Why is she saying it? What's the impact in the original language listener? Well, what Juliet is saying is that why do names matter? You know, why does it matter that you're a Montague and I'm a Capulet? If only it wasn't for all these names, we could be together. That's what she's saying. So in this context, nimi li suli tan seme, in my view, would be a perfectly reasonable rendition of that. It's longer, it's shorter. I mean, iambic and pentameter, if you know what it is, you know, you've lost that anyway, so you might as well just go with something that means the right thing. But anyway, so I'm really sorry, I'm going to run over if I keep going. But thanks for giving me the original sentence here. Seme la nimi li suli. Yeah, you could. The thing is, it also depends on the whole flow of the scene. And also, you know, what you have got poetry here, right? It's okay. Iambic pentameter means that every single line is exactly 10 syllables. Now, you cannot replicate this. I looked at the Turkish one. I found a really good Turkish translation, but it's out the window. And what they've done is they've used little devices that sound good in Turkish. So in Turkish, you have where you can change the order of the words in a sentence in a way that is completely impossible in English, but it sounds nice. It kind of sounds poetic. And so they do it. So you could apply something similar, like we had presentations before about poetic styles in Toki Pona. You could do that here if you wanted. But yeah, it gives you an idea. I'm really sorry I was a bit late. I wish we had a bit more time for a workshop. But yeah, thanks very much for listening. Thanks for commenting in the chat. And yeah, so there we go. Thanks very much.
Sino po now yan talaga